Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the regular monthly meeting of the Art and Culture Commission for January 19th, 2012. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Ziever? Here. Chair Hovhannissian? Here. Gregorian?
Yes.
Kavanian?
Here.
Chairperson Lee?
Here.
The agenda for the January 19th meeting was posted on the bulletin board outside City Hall on January 13th, 2012. Item 2, consent items. At A, approval of regular meeting minutes from December 15th, 2011 at 2 p.m.
I will move approval. I second it.
Commissioner Deaver? Yes. Chair Hovhannissian?
Yes.
Gregorian?
Yes.
Kavanian?
Yes.
Chairperson Lee?
Yes.
Item 3, introductions and presentations. At 1, Art Gallery fundraiser at the Alex Theater by GYA Board, presented by Karina Gregorian, Community Development Supervisor.
Okay, I would like to introduce Karina Gregorian. She is the Community Services Supervisor at the Glendale Alliance, Youth Alliance, and she's been with the parks for 10 years. The reason she's here today, I invited her to come to the Commission because they're planning to do, the Glendale Youth Alliance Board is planning to do an art gallery exhibition at the fundraising event at the Alex Theater in March. And she has a lot to share with the Commission, and we hope the Commission will be supportive of her event and project.
Good afternoon. My name is Karina Gregorian. As Rupsima mentioned, I'm the Community Development Supervisor. I oversee the Glendale Youth Alliance. As you all know, unemployment is currently the most pressing issue in America, and having the highest rate of unemployment is our youth, ages 16 to 24. Since 1993, the Glendale Youth Alliance has been providing employment opportunities to the youth of our community. We offer 6 programs and annually serve approximately 500 youth. We're having a fundraiser, an art exhibit on March 21st at the Alex Theater. It's our first ever art exhibit, actually, and we hope it'll be a huge success. It's from 5:30 to 8:30 in the afternoon. We're currently seeking art donations and would like to reach out to the art community to invite them to our event. We're also looking for sponsorship. And we were hoping, as the Arts and Culture Commission of our city, if you would be able to assist us in our efforts to ensure that this is a huge success. If you have any questions about the event, we're in the early stages of planning this. Our board is very active in getting the event together. And hopefully you will also be able to attend. We'd love to have you. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer it. I believe you have a copy of the sponsorship letter as well as the art donation request in front of you.
Could you repeat the date and the location?
Yes, March 21st at 5:30 p.m. at the Alex Theater here in Glendale.
March 21st?
Yes.
Another question, is the aim to just exhibit the art, or is it to sell the art, or how does it work?
We'll be selling the art. And depending on the artist's contribution, they can contribute 100% or 40%, depending on what they like. Percentage of the proceeds will go to the Glendale Youth Alliance.
Great idea.
Is there a deadline for submissions?
End of February, February 28th.
Okay,
29th, actually.
And do the artists have to donate their work, or they get something, share the proceeds if they sell anything?
It depends on the artist. If they would like to contribute 100%, that's wonderful, or a percentage. And they can indicate what percent they would like to contribute.
Do the artists have to be local?
No.
And how do you announce this? How do you publicize this to the very many talented artists that we have in this city?
Well, that's where we were hoping we would have your assistance in reaching out to them.
Well, as I understand, their expertise is in another area to help youth to find a job for them, and this is one area that the Commission can help them with. I just learned that organizing the fundraising has been just started, and from my experience, it will usually take at least 6 months to put together a successful event. Therefore, if we can individually or with our own connections let artists know and invite them to be part of this event, then it will be great. We need to really help them out to succeed in this project, which the date has been already set, so it's March 21st.
Our board of directors is working on it as well. We have 19 board members. So it's moving along, but we definitely do need the help and support, all the support.
Are you working with any art organizations, Karina?
We're reaching out to them. We don't have any commitments at this point, just individuals that are involved in the art community.
Okay.
And there is no age limit or any professionalism in there, right? I mean,
No.
And the reason I'm saying is there are several really good art schools in town that you may be able to contact them, and maybe they will choose some of their brightest students, and it will be good for everybody, and the students will get also some exposure. And also, is there any way, Ripsime, that we can somehow help them with our mailing lists and all that?
Definitely. We'll be more than happy to promote the event. We will use our own contact list. We do have a list of art organizations and artists. We can send that out for you. However, I was just thinking that it will be a good idea perhaps for your event organizers to get in touch with private art galleries who have their art collectors list also. So if once they are involved, then I guess there is a chance for you to sell more art. So we can provide that names.
Wonderful.
As well.
Thank you so much.
One thing I would be happy to do for you is I have several connections with several local art galleries. I might even ask to see if they want to somehow sponsor or participate and maybe even donate an artwork or something, or at least exhibit something in there.
That would be terrific.
And yeah, I would be very happy to do that for you. But there is one thing,
Yes.
Ripsime and Mr. Duran, I'm a little concerned about the time that you might have to spend on this. And since they represent the Glendale Youth Alliance and they always have youth working around, and I've used some of your guys quite often just to be helpful, is there any way that we can have an arrangement with the organization and Mr. Duran to get some volunteers from them to help Ripsime to work on this event?
Well, I think at this point we will be more than happy to promote the event and send out e-blasts to our contact list. And we do have a Glendale Youth Alliance helper right now in our section, and the help is there. I don't see how we can get more involved than, since we are very busy with our roundtable discussion project. So
that's why I'm asking for the volunteers
And
from
we'd
them.
be happy to help in any way that we can.
okay.
If I may add, Mr. Chair and Commissioners, GYA has their own staff, and so they have the staff capacity to do a lot of the legwork. I think the most valuable thing that the Commission could do to support GYA in this endeavor is accessibility to our mailing list, the various mailing lists of artists between the Commission and the Cultural Affairs section and other organizations, and any other network contacts that you might have would be most beneficial and would go a long way to support GYA. They also have the GYA workforce, so whenever they need additional help, they have a workforce, a built-in, ready-made workforce. And GYA is a unit in the workforce development section, which is a section in the Community Services and Parks Department. So coordinating and getting help will not be an issue.
Okay, excellent.
I do believe that at this point, Ripsime's expertise as a consultant would be the most important, valuable part for this. So you could advise their committee or the board or whoever is going to organize the rest into what is the direction and steps. And as far as broadcasting image using our mailing system, what about flyer? Who prepares the flyer?
We're actually working on it right now.
Okay.
As far as sponsorship and donation letters, those are prepared and have already been mailed out. But as far as the actual flyer for the event, we're working on that
Very good.
as we speak.
That is, since that's specific to your own organization, it would be good if you guys prepare that, and then through the support of the commission and Ripsime, she would direct into what are, because she has done so many of these art exhibits, so she could help you into the right
you.
direction.
And one, I'm sorry.
May I, in terms of sponsorship, certainly we don't have a budget to be able to participate in that arena, but using staff time and you know, sharing of the information that we have and connecting to the arts community. Is there an advantage, or would it be, if there was a way of working out a sponsorship through this sort of in-kind donation?
Sure,
to have
definitely.
Our involvement in the
Definitely.
program?
We'd be honored to have you as a sponsor, recognize you as a sponsor for all the time and effort.
That would be great.
Have you done any fundraising in the past?
The
Or
Glendale
this is
Youth
the
Alliance?
first- yeah.
No, we do. We do several fundraisers on an annual basis.
Art
Art.
related.
This is the first ever art exhibit. So we're new to this arena.
And I think it will be a good idea after the meeting for us to get together and make an arrangement. Let's meet and talk
Sure.
about more.
Sure, that would be great.
I do
me-
believe that we need to follow up with Commissioner Gregorian's advice as well, because there are so many different art organizations which they would appreciate because there needs to be a collaborative effort in the community. So
Right.
as he advised, if you would contact Ripsme, can give the names, or Commissioner Gregorian himself, because he knows some of them very closely. So to get the names and to have them participate, because they like to be included in whatever happens, because that is their expertise and it's not the Art Alliance. So it's a nice way of combining youth effort and the expertise of the artists in the community.
We would definitely appreciate that.
Commissioner Gregorian?
I'm sorry, what was that?
I think both of us were trying to say something. Right?
Yeah. Well, let me ask you one last question, which
Yes.
is kind of probably a key. Would this exhibition have a curator who would choose the artwork, or whoever donates whatever is accepted?
No, we do have a committee. The board has a committee that will be reviewing the art.
And are they
Deem it
professional
appropriate.
curators or artists, or in any way?
Yes, we have several professional artists.
I see.
Involved.
Okay. Why don't you contact me after this meeting, or maybe in the next couple of days? Meanwhile, either before or after we talk, I will try to talk to a couple of galleries and a couple of art schools, or at least I'll give you their name and number, and maybe you can contact them and see how we could proceed with that.
Sure, wonderful.
I'll be more than happy to help you on
Thank
that.
you. Thank you. We really
And
appreciate it.
are you accepting local artists only, or
It's
Anybody.
open at this point,
okay?
so any art.
Another question that I have, when I think of this, I tend to think of visual art, specifically like painting, drawing. I think those kinds of things come to mind, but I'm assuming that it's sort of interdisciplinary in terms of maybe ceramics or other types. Or are you looking specifically at kind of two-dimensional arts?
We're looking at a variety of art pieces, so whether it's sculptures, photograph, oil paintings, whatever it may be.
Installations and all that.
Yes.
Excellent.
And jewelry as well?
I'm not sure about jewelry. I'll have to check with
Because
the
in our
committee.
last exhibit, I don't know, ours was that, or it was Brand 40, I think, that there's a beautiful kind of, it's not jewelry as for sale, but it's art pieces made out of different pieces of beads and jewelry that, of course, it could be sold. So that is another option.
I would imagine that would be acceptable.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I mean, that type of art, and certainly we have jewelry artists and other types of design arts, which would probably be really beneficial to a sale of that sort, I would think.
Well, I think the best thing is let them Let us them decide what they want to do, and whatever they decide, we assist them.
We are just giving suggestions because sometimes, it's a spark of idea here and there, and then they would take whatever works for them. But, sometimes going to so many different exhibits, we see such a big variety. So we borrow from whatever we learn from them and we share with the audience. So it's whichever way you decide, that would be good.
Yeah, and just let us know, and that way we can make sure that the appropriate artists are notified about that and they're thinking about all the different aspects of it.
I can definitely do that.
Thank you for helping with youth.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for your time and all your assistance. We really do appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, Brand Library and Art Center upcoming exhibitions presented by Kathy Billings, Art Librarian and Gallery Manager.
Well, I'm not Kathy Billings. I'm Pat Zeider, and I'm the manager of the Brand Art and Music Library, and I'm here instead of Kathy today to do some announcements for Brand Library and the library system in general. Sorry. Okay. First of all, I'd like to announce our upcoming exhibit. This will be the last exhibit before we close for our renovation. This one is entitled Purchasing Power, Jurors Make Their Mark, and it opens this Saturday, January 21st. We're having a reception from 6 to 9 p.m. For more than 40 years, the annual juried exhibition that's sponsored by the Associates of Brand Library has been one of the preeminent stages upon which artists, almost 2,000 of them from around the country, have exhibited their work. This monumental record is enhanced by the historically significant Southern California-based artists, educators, and critics who have served as jurors during those 40 years. With the exhibition Purchasing Power, Jurors Make Their Mark, the Brand Library Art Galleries honors Pacific Standard Time, Los Angeles art, 1945 to 1980, the unprecedented collaboration of cultural institutions across Southern California coming together to celebrate the birth of the LA art scene. Featuring 35 artworks and a variety of media from the Associates of Brand Library Purchase Award collection from the period 1971 to 1980. The exhibition will highlight the legacy of the well-known jurors of that period, including Millard Sheets, Claire Falkenstein, Joe Mugnani, Hans Burkhardt, Guy McCoy, and Paul Brock. Also on display are selected works from later years. Our annual library bookmark contest is coming up right away, and it starts this Saturday, January 21st, and runs through Sunday, February 5th. It's for kids ages 5 and up. We will choose 3 finalists from all the bookmarks that are submitted, and copies of those bookmarks will be printed and distributed throughout the library system. This is always a popular event, and people can make bookmarks in the library, should plan to come by and do so during that time. Next, we have 2 book events at the Central Library. First will be Wednesday, January 25th at 7 p.m. in the library auditorium. And this is a talk about the book Steps to the Summit, Reaching the Top in Business and Life with Paul and Denise Fejtek, who are the authors. And fewer than 300 people in the world and only a handful of married couples have ever climbed all of the 7 summits, the highest mountain peaks on each of the 7 continents. Paul and Denise Fejtek, both born and raised in Glendale, recently joined that elite group after reaching their 7th and final summit, the Earth's highest 29,029-foot Mount Everest in 2010. And on Thursday, February 16th, at 7 p.m. in the library auditorium will be Denise Hamilton speaking about her new book, Damage Control. Denise is a best-selling Glendale author, and in Damage Control, she weaves an engrossing story of teenage friendship and adult betrayal, featuring a high-powered young woman in the crisis management world who gets swept up in murder and scandal involving a wealthy political family. Before launching her career as a mystery writer, Denise was an award-winning journalist with the LA Times, where she covered international events and local Los Angeles news. Denise was also one of our One Book, One Glendale authors in 2010 and has emceed many of our events, and she's a great speaker. We wanted to mention one of our own staff members, Blair Whittington, who is our music librarian at the Brand Library, and Blair won a prestigious composition award recently with his trio for flute, clarinet, and bassoon called Birdsong, and it won first place in the instrumental category of the 2011 Composers Guild competition, and also the grand prize. We're very proud of Blair and wanted to let everyone know what a great and talented person we have on our staff. And last of all, we have some big news about our renovation, which is that we have received official city manager approval to go ahead and close for the renovation. And so the last day that Brand Library will be open will be Saturday, March 3rd. Beginning Monday, March 5th, will be closed, and we will be relocating to the Glendale Central Library at the end of April with the most heavily used portion of our collection, including art and music circulating books and reference materials, CDs, DVDs, music scores and songbooks, and our specialized databases. Brand Library's full-time staff will be reassigned to the Central Library during the renovation closure. Construction on this project will begin in early May and last 16 to 18 months. We hope to have a grand reopening at the end of 2013. I'm not going to elaborate on the renovation because I believe you've heard presentations on this before, but I'll be happy to answer any questions. We're still working out plans for programming and hope to be doing some events at the Central Library. The Associates of Brand Library will continue to remain active, and we'll be planning some off-site events. Please check our website, brandlibrary.org, for updates. And I do want to mention that for people who may be concerned that there is ample validated free parking at the Central Library if people are worried about, about accessing brand materials there. The parking garage is on the northeast corner of Harvard and Maryland. And one extra benefit from our relocation is that Brand Library materials will now be accessible 7 days a week while we're at the Central Library. So that's all I have to offer today, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Just wanted to make a comment. The last meeting, the last event that you had, that you're selling the valuable books and paintings and prints and etc. that we have, the Brand Associates, it was very successful. Mm-hmm. And there were many valuable books which could be bought with a very low price, which my husband was surprised when he saw, I had them stacked up. He said, where did you get all these fine things? And looking at the price on top of that, he figured out. Thanks for offering this kind of opportunity to the community to get hold of beautiful. And Mrs. Marashan also bought a very valuable painting, I think, from their print, actually, isn't it?
Old Chinese print, yeah.
How old was that, you said?
1700.
Really?
Something.
Oh, my goodness, yes. Yes, most everything that we sold in that sale was donations. And we will be having another sale sometime before we move out of the building. And, check the website again for information on that.
If they take a good eye or an expert eye, they might find, valuable material there, which would be a rare item. Very good.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I may add as a side note, our own department's Brand Studios will also be relocating as part of the Brand Library renovation and relocation project. And it will be relocating for the most part to the Chevy Chase Library. So we're working in very close coordination with the library division on relocating our services. And that's our primary location for art classes, lifelong learning art classes.
Chevy Chase, and what was the exact address?
Chevy Chase Library is on Chevy Chase in the middle of the canyon. I don't remember the address.
Close to the school, correct?
Yes. Adjacent
just adjacent to the fire station.
It's part of the fire station, basically.
I know, but
Correct.
it's very close to the school.
No, country club. Chevy Chase Country Club.
Oh,
It's-
gotcha. I'm
it's,
sorry. I got you.
Probably about a half a block, half a long block up past.
I'm curious about that space also, so I will go ahead and send the address to you, Arlette.
If I'm correct, 3601, I think, East Chevy Chase Drive. Somewhere around 3600. Next item.
Item 4, oral communications, and we have no cards. Item 5, business agenda. At A, action items. At 1, election of new chairperson.
Well, as you know, Chairperson Lee's term as a chairperson is expiring this month, and the commission has to nominate and needs to take a vote and elect a new chairperson for 2012. You guys know the procedure. If you have nominations, you're welcome to make the nominations. And I'm sorry, you have a question?
No, I was just asking Mr. Chair to give me a
Chance to
voice to talk after you finish.
Well, that's all I have to say. If you are ready to make your nominations, you can go ahead and start that. Do you guys have any questions?
Any discussions on this issue from my colleagues?
Let's go for the nominations.
Okay, Mr. Chair, if I may. I know that this is a very important issue, and with the Commission being on kind of a transitionary course, I think it is really important for us to know that we are making the correct decision and making the correct nomination and the vote. And I actually know, I've heard some of my colleagues would really like to chair the commission. So I'm going to drop a bomb and make a nomination with the understanding that I have really mulled about this issue since I received the package for the past several days. And I have really weighted the goods and the bads and the pros and cons of each nomination and each one of my colleagues. First, I want to make sure that we all understand that I do respect all my colleagues, and I do understand that they all do have the ability to chair this commission. So when I make my nomination, it's not going to be, because I don't believe the other ones are not worthy of this. But I have thought a lot, put a lot of analysis into this, and I've come to conclusion that at this time, the person that I'm going to nominate is probably the best person under the circumstances to lead this commission. And I'm going to nominate my colleague, Mr. Arman Keivanyan, for this. And I don't really need to explain the details why I came to this conclusion, but I think this is at this time, considering our council members, people who have appointed us, and whoever, whatever we have contacts with, etc., probably at this time, this is the best nomination that I came up with. And again, this is no disrespect to the other fellow commissioners who would have liked to deal with this, and or who would like to lead the chair. Hopefully, next year they will have their turn also.
Okay, I would. What do we second on that?
Unless there are any other nominations. Are there any other nominations?
Actually, I think it's not a bad idea. If Commissioner Kevanyan is willing, he has done this before. He is the youngest among us, and he's very involved for different aspects with so many different issues. And it's not a bad nomination if Commissioner Kevanyan is willing to go for that.
I have no idea what my colleagues see particularly special about nominating me, but
that's the good part of it.
I'm kidding. I think that I did talk to several people whose opinions I value very highly, who are involved in the city, And I think that I got a lot of reassurance today. I threw up the question of course, everybody knows that the Arts and Culture Commission chair seat is available at this time, and actually one of them said, "Why don't you be the chair?" And I said, "Well, why would I want to do that?" No, I'm kidding. They made some very valid points in terms of how I could make that work. So I'm going to thank my colleagues for doing that, for nominating me, and I will accept the nomination.
Good decision, Commissioner.
I hope your schedule, this year's schedule, I know that you have 2 jobs, school will not interfere with it, and you will be available.
Hasn't before.
And we could help him. There are times that he cannot be somewhere, or we could be designated into taking opportunity to help him out or to be present at events that he couldn't. But he just needs to let us know ahead of
I
time.
made sure that the people that I talk to, and that is excluding people from this commission, just for Mr. Grant's sake, they assured me that the way that everything works is we do work as a team, and that when one of us cannot go somewhere, then we can designate them or so forth. So and that's the one thing I hope I proved when I was chair twice in a row, that this is a team. We're not just one person. We have to act as a whole. So thank you, Commissioner Deroganesin. I appreciate that.
That's how we have always functioned, because in our commission, the chair just kind of facilitates the conversation here, but mostly if there is an issue, contacts us within whatever the Brown Act allows, and we discuss and share and delegates. We delegate him into going and doing things on our behalf, and he does delegate through us. So it has been a kind of a teamwork always, and that's why it's so cohesive, and we all do respect each other and trust each other. And as I was discussing today before the meeting, none of us has a hidden agenda, or none of us has anything besides the fact that to be of service. A good friend of mine said something which I would like to share somehow. She was saying, I never want to be the main person. I want to be like the play of cards. I like to be the joker that could be placed wherever I'm needed. So the rest of us, we are wherever you want. You could place us so we could be of support to our community and our artists.
And if I may, I think this year in particular, I think a unified voice, as much as feasible amongst the Commission, is one of the key items. I think in terms of having a voice from the Commission present at not only community functions as a face of the Commission is important, but certainly I think we need to be more present before the City Council and maybe before other commissions and have that involvement. And so, and without any disrespect, my question was the same in terms of availability and commitment to that, and understanding that is, I personally think that that's a prime role, particularly in this year, and I know that it seems that you have gravely considered that, and so that's
absolutely.
my question.
I was not expecting to even be in this discussion, quite frankly, but I have considered that, and I think I can step up to the plate.
And as mentioned, anytime, just it needs to be enough, ample time before anything so we could discuss, we could prepare, we could be the voice of the team, whoever goes for you or when you go for it. Like the other event that we had, and you had a lot of discussion here, that we need to be the united voice, and we need to make sure that we all discuss. We have to see how we need to do it with the Brown Act, but we should always be on the same page, so any one of us delegated, we would be very comfortable into being there, because I know that you're very busy, and so are each one of us. But we can take turns and do things for you, because we know that you're extremely busy this year, but I do believe that you're a good voice.
I appreciate that.
I would normally nominate myself, but in hearing all these positive feedbacks from my fellow commissioners, because I personally made time and make sure I would have time to go to all the events.
That's true, and I told my friends also that even though I have always declined to take my turn, I said actually this year I might be doing it because now I have no commitments, I mean, as an employee to the district, so I have more availability and more time, so we could all be there for you whenever needed. So I think it's a very good nomination, and since he has accepted, what's the procedure now?
Now you need to take a vote.
Okay.
Oh, I think technically we close nominations and then we take the roll call.
Okay, then I move that we close the nominations.
Okay.
Roll call.
Second, anyone?
Oh, sorry.
We move to accept the nomination. Yes?
I'm moving to close the nominations.
And moving to accept the closing of the nominations. How does it go?
A second on that.
You actually don't need
Close.
a motion to close the nominations, but we close the nominations. There are no further nominations, and so we take the roll call. And in the event that there was not a majority vote, then we would reopen the nominations. Problem here, so we'll go ahead and take the roll call.
Commissioners Deaver,
Yes.
Chair Hovhannissian,
Yes.
Gregorian,
Yes.
Kevanyan,
Yes.
Lee.
Yes.
Yay.
Now you have to switch places.
Congratulations, Commissioner Kevanyan. Chair Kevanyan.
Thank you.
Don't forget your nameplate.
Oh, I won't. And my
And thank you,
sunglasses.
Commissioner Lee, for chairing this.
Really. This feels weird. Thank you for warming my chair, Mr. Chair. I mean, I appreciate all of the positive comments and statements from my colleagues. It's very reassuring. I won't let you down. I will be there when I need to, and in the very rare cases that I cannot or will not, I will, of course, let all of you know. And from all the positive feedback, I don't think anything will be that big of an issue. A few road bumps here and there are acceptable and expected. With that, and again, Commissioner Lee, thank you for your hard work and your diligence, and we appreciate that, all of us. Thank you. With that, next item, please.
Next item, review and provide feedback on the Arts Organizations Roundtable discussion agenda and event date.
Well, at the last commission meeting, the commission approved the idea of holding the art organizations meeting in the city of Glendale, and therefore you appointed two of your member commissioners, Commissioner Deaver and Chairperson Kevanyan, to a committee to help staff, to work with the staff, and to prepare a draft agenda for the meeting. The group met and discussed the goal and purpose of the meeting and the main objectives, and came up with some questions which have been incorporated into the draft agenda, which is attached to the staff report for your review and feedback. Since one of the main objectives of this meeting is to meet as many organizations and learn as much as possible for their needs and challenges and their ideas. It is important for us to communicate with them clearly and the best possible way. We thought, since on the agenda, on the second item, you see it says self-introduction. At this point, we are not very sure how many organizations will show up. Therefore, we cannot set up a time for each organization to talk about all their needs and ideas and more details about their organization. Therefore, we prepared a survey, which is also attached to the staff report. full of questions and an area where they can talk about their ideas and present this information to us. It can be sent out before the meeting. It can be available during the meeting, since we are going to have an information table for the organizations to share their brochures, business letters, business cards, newsletters, and perhaps we can send this survey out after the meeting as well to make sure that nobody is being left behind. So at this point, we know the deadline we have talked about. Not deadline, I'm thinking about the Diamond Awards. The date for this meeting is set up for February 27th. The meeting is going to be Brown acted, and the public notice will be posted outside of the City Hall. So if you have any ideas, any comments, any input about the draft agenda or the survey questions, we'll be happy to take this information into consideration.
Commissioner Deaver?
Just a question in terms of the timing for finalizing the agenda and the questions, because I don't have any major comments at this time, but I'm wondering if we need to finalize it at this point, or if it's kind of we have another week or two to.
Well, it is very important. At this point, the main thing for us is to decide who we're going to invite, how are we going to invite, and therefore we need to get together one more time, perhaps next week, to get together and make a list of the organizations. And once we have the list, then during that meeting we can also discuss all the other questions that you like to add in the agenda.
Question, is it going to be only the two commissioners, or is it for all of us?
You have appointed two commissioners at the last meeting, so they will continue. Chairperson Kevanyan?
Yeah, I don't think we were appointed to a subcommittee of any kind.
We did, though.
We volunteered.
We volunteered.
You volunteered, and
we
therefore
approved.
you were invited.
Right. Mr. Dunn, you had a comment?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'd like to clarify. In my viewpoint, this is an administrative task. This is a staff administrative task, and I think we have enough information here that we would be ready to take it from here and finalize this and send it out. We got very valuable feedback and had a very productive exchange between the four of us in developing this. And so we just want to know if you have any further feedback and to have an opportunity to show you and to explain what our idea for the agenda is and the meeting format. As Ripsnay already mentioned, we do have, for example, in terms of the format, we are planning a half-hour mixer before the meeting starts to give the organizations a chance to network and exchange information, which I think was one of our goals. We will have tables set up where organizations can leave information on their programs and anything that they would like to promote, and so that would be another means of networking and everyone getting to know each other. We are planning to have available a questionnaire and request that they try to take the time to fill out that questionnaire and leave it with us before they leave the meeting in the event that they don't have an opportunity or don't take the opportunity to verbalize some of the questions or their perceptions to the questions that we will be asking as part of the agenda. So we think that we have that, that we'll have that covered. And so that's kind of the meeting format. We did come up with a new term, so it's not a forum, but it's a roundtable discussion, which I think is more apropos for what we're trying to achieve from this meeting. And we aren't raising expectations ourselves for any particular follow-up. It's possible that, given the energy and in the course of discussion, that maybe the organizations themselves want to have a follow-up, and maybe we could facilitate that. We just don't know yet. We'll just have to see how it goes and how it flows and how it falls into a context. So that's kind of the meeting format, that's kind of our thinking, and this is our proposed agenda. If you have any comments, reaction, any further feedback, we will take that, and then we will go and finalize this and organize it and set it up. We do expect all 5 commissioners to attend, so it will be Brown acted. We do expect the commissioners to have an active role in facilitating the meeting. I don't think I should facilitate it. I don't think Reps May needs to facilitate it. So, for example, we've already inserted Commissioner Deaver to facilitate the explaining to the group what are the objectives and what's the meeting format. And if you, for example, if you want to have a particular role or you want to facilitate and lead the discussion on any particular agenda discussion topic here, let us know, and we can write you in as facilitator for that particular topic. And so that's what we have in mind, and so we wanted to let you know what we had come up with following your direction at the last meeting to go develop it and check in, and so we're checking in, and after this we'll be ready to finalize it and get it.
Sounds good.
I do have just a couple of comments as I had read through it, particularly to the meeting format and the survey questions.
Okay.
One thing that came to mind is I think it would be helpful to understand the participating organizations' collaborative history with one another already. So if they have collaborated or in the past with the arts organizations, so you kind of know the history of that. And to that point, then, the third bullet item where we have organizations' interest in collaborative programming, I think it might be interesting to know their interest in a high-profile collaborative programming, so not so much necessarily they're in collaborative events and programming amongst themselves, but how they might be interested in a higher profile collaboration together with the city in a way that serves the broader community, if they're not already doing that, if that distinction makes sense.
When you say high-profile collaboration, you mean partnering with the city programs?
I mean,
Or is there any other definition of high-profile when you say high-profile?
when I think of high profile, I guess I'm getting at something that is publicly accessible and promoted. Because I can think of organizations that might teach classes, and they might work with another organization that teaches similar classes, and together they have collaborated, with their outreach and with their members. But if we're looking at things as I see listed here, like at art fairs, open studio tours, temporary art installations, performance art, I'm thinking of the Heidi Duckler collaborative program that happened downtown this past year. Things that draw attention and of which the city could really support because it's really. It's high profile.
Yeah, okay.
So that was just a distinction that I was curious to see added. Another question that came to mind is I'm curious about whether the organization has always been housed in Glendale, and if they have considered for any reason leaving Glendale, because I think we've had some organizations that have not been able to find space, or they might reside here, but they actually program elsewhere. So I think that would be an interesting distinction to understand.
Well, I know for sure we have a couple of art organizations, including an art gallery, who moved out of Glendale to Beverly Hills. So I don't know how that information can be incorporated in this questionnaire.
Right, yeah, if this organization's already left, we can't really have them participate. But if there is an organization, I'd be curious to know if somebody has moved into Glendale from another location, or
That
if they
will be a big surprise.
Or is
not.
thinking of.
But or if they exist here currently
And
and
planning to
are
move.
considering looking elsewhere for any reason, because I think it'd be important for us to know why. Is it a space? Is it support? Is it market? Are they just personal? It's a personal decision. I think that would be important to know. I wouldn't want to get into hearsay, but if they could make to the point of whether somebody has already moved out and why. I mean, that probably is a question for another questionnaire in some way, but that would be something as maybe a secondary. I'd be curious to know, if people have moved out, why that has occurred, so that we can figure out maybe programs or initiatives that would help organizations relocate back to Glendale, incentivize that so that the people are not moving out. But I don't know that we can accomplish this, except that maybe in the discussion format, without getting into hearsay, but if organizations are familiar with their partner organizations that have moved out and can share some information or contact information, that might be helpful.
So, Commissioner Deaver, are you suggesting to add another question there?
I was not clear with that, was I? Yeah, I think it would be, I would like to know the length of time that an organization has been in Glendale and if they've had if they plan to be here indefinitely. Might be a nice way of putting that. And also, the third thing I was curious about adding potentially as a consideration to add is whether they feel important to the city or visible within the city or recognized within the city. And if not, that goes back to some of our other questions of how might we support those organizations. But I would personally be interested in knowing what their views are on that. And my final comment is that with regard to participation, during the questions, the roundtable portion of it where the questions are being presented, I expect that there'll be some kind of back and forth and things that kind of come up and discussion that comes up. I think it would be helpful to have a small handful of people that are helping to moderate that, not necessarily maybe one person, maybe two people, but so that it doesn't become confused about who should they be responding to and what direction is the conversation going, because there'll have to be some finessing in keeping it on track, but still pulling out the information that we're hoping that they will share. So that's just a thought, and I would be happy to participate in that if staff and my colleagues felt comfortable with that, along with other commissioners.
Commissioner Lee?
Commissioner Lee, your mic is not on.
Sorry, I wanted to see if we can add on to art activities the organization is involved in, to see if events that they actually produce. That would be very good to know from these organizations. For example, if they do an event that's well known, at least it will be announced that we put on the acrobats at the Alex Theater. Things of what the organization actually does and does well, instead of just activities that they're involved in. Would that be better, or to add a totally separate question?
I'm not.
I would like to say, I do believe what I understand is that you want to see how active they have been in the community, a kind of a mini report or whatever of what they have done currently or majorly, what was the spotlights of whatever they have done, their contribution as an artist in the community, I suppose, correct?
Or what they normally do. So, for example, let's say the Glendale Chamber of Commerce, we normally have monthly mixers. We for example, let's say we do a parade every year. At least we know what these organizations, what their main focus has always been, and what they do on an annual basis. So either to put that as a topic, as a question, what functions do you produce or organize, or just put an addition to this, art activities the organization is involved in or produces. So I don't know if you want to...
I think there is a section where we suggest that they write about their organization's mission. And
correct, but sometimes a function is not within their mission statement directly.
Yeah, if I may, I mean, I do think knowing, what discipline they're involved in, if they can be concise about that, I think is certainly helpful. But to your point, I would agree. I've participated in surveys, for instance, and you can figure out what makes the most sense, because I know we want to keep it simple so that they'll actually fill it out as well. But asking perhaps the number of public or number of events that they hold annually, or the number of events serving 50 or fewer people, or 50 to 200 people, or 200 or more people, and how many times a year that might happen, and then allow them to just generally say what types of events, if they would offer that they hold. And in parentheses, you can even say, as an example, a parade, a festival, a performance, something like that. I think that's a concise way of pained looks.
I tried to write it down, but I missed it here.
Yeah, but for
I
example,
can share something with you if after the meeting,
Right.
if that's helpful.
Yeah. No,
for example,
I do
the
have an
Chinese
idea.
Chamber of Commerce, as a former vice president, we organized and put together the Miss Los Angeles Chinatown pageant for over 40 some odd years. We put on the Golden Dragon Parade. We put together the Mid-Autumn Moon Festival. We put together the Lunar New Year Festival. Those are actual events that the organization does on a yearly basis. As a
that
highlight
mean?
for the organization.
As I understand.
But on that, none of that is part of our mission statement
But if our
for the chamber.
meeting, roundtable discussion meeting is going to be with the art organizations, will you be inviting your chambers of commerce as an art organization, or are we talking about including also
No.
other organizations?
I'm just saying, for example, what I'm trying to say is,
I know, but-
let's say the Alex Theater. They put on monthly events, fundraisers, let's say, for example. Just that they list their events that they do, that they put together themselves. So let's say I'm an art curator. I do, for example, the Open Studio Tour. They'll say that, yes, I'm an organization. I run the Open Studio Tour every year. That's what my organization does. We also do a fundraiser every year. We, make breakfast for the homeless, for example. Or functions that they normally do, which is good for us to know, because then we can look forward to their event, number one. Number two, see if any way we can help them in their events, in that aspect.
I have a question. If possible, Mr. Duran, maybe you can give me some direction with this. Is it possible to, and I'm not stopping any of my colleagues from expressing ideas, we can get back to that. But is there any way that we can approve this as a template, and then through Commissioner Deaver and I, we can sit and kind of massage out the specifics of everything along with staff? Is that a possibility?
Yes, Chairman Cabaño, what I am doing is I am taking notes on questions to add to the
And I see that
survey.
you're doing it very diligently.
And those questions would include adding a question along the lines of art production / events that you are involved in, and then we can include an IE, for example, and this example is what we're talking about. Expanding on the question of the organization's interest to include something to the effect of organizations' interest in high-profile collaborations with the city and programming undertaking initiatives, i.e. art fairs, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe adding a question of how long has your organization been in Glendale, and do you plan to remain in Glendale or relocate, and is there anything that the city might be able to do to facilitate remaining in Glendale? Adding a question along the lines of, do you feel important or recognized by the city, or words to that effect? And then adding a question along the lines of please list any events or organization sponsors and or produces, or maybe this question in lieu of the earlier question about art productions and events you're involved with. So I'm taking notes, and we'll go, your feedback, and we'll go back and finalize it, hopefully being true to the feedback that you were giving us. And maybe at a minimum to the two committee members, have you guys look at it one last time before we finalize it to make sure we captured the feedback that we got here today.
I have a question here. In the part that says there are boxes and you need to check out, at least 1, 2, 3 of them are questions. It's not something to check out. So how do we want to handle that? The first one and the last two?
They're all questions.
At the bottom?
Those are all questions, basically.
Yeah, I know, but how do you want to do this?
No, they just
bullet
pointed it in the box, that's all.
They're just like bullet points.
Because it says
We will have a space for them to write the answer under the question. It doesn't have to be marked.
Just for us to see.
So I know, I do understand, but it needs to specify.
Oh, yeah,
because
yeah,
It needs
yeah,
to be
yeah. Oh, yeah,
massaged
yeah,
as
they'll
it's
have-
said, because it's not clear. If I look at something that says survey and check the box and I have a question, I would be not really pleased with that. Anyhow, so that is part of it. The next part is in the section 4. How would the questions and answers be handled? Would it be in an oral communication? Would it be in a written form? That is very important in my mind. How do we want to do that?
Chairman Kavani and Commissioners, the most common way that I think is an easel and easel pad, and you have a facilitator and a recorder. Like probably the recording responsibility would be appropriate for staff. So as comments are made, we can write them down, make sure everybody knows that they were heard and recognized. And then we minimize redundancy if everybody's thinking about the same ideas, and then have a record of the meeting and the discussion. And then we can decide at the next meeting or the first meeting after the roundtable discussion what to do with the information that was gathered. If we want to, as a follow-up or the only follow-up, maybe do a final report on what was gleaned from the roundtable discussion, and then leave it at that until more things related to the commission become clear, and we have a better idea of the best way to use the information that we got from this roundtable discussion. And so we can do that. We can plan on easels and stands and recording, and have one of you facilitate the discussion, and we'll record the comments.
That's a great idea. That's how we usually have done most of our administrative meetings and the staff. We could even go based on topics. Let's say performing arts or different ones, we can even categorize, and then there could be a group that, they get together, they put all the ideas, and somebody reads it out at the end, what they have, so everybody else, even if they cannot see, they're not up close, they would share what they have on their easel, and then there would be one that we put all together as far as what was the general idea and thematically where we stand. That's a great way to do that. Yes, thank you.
Any other comments from my colleagues? I have to say that I walked into this meeting, I think in the previous meeting I was the one who was the most kind of against the idea or wanted to change it or whatever. But I have to say that the three of you did a wonderful job of pushing me into supporting this project. So I was a little bit of an unhappy camper, but walked out of the meeting being a happy camper. So
as a
But
chair,
that's
you
it.
have no other choice. You have to be a
I-
happy camper,
I said I'm not here to, I'm here to build
I'm just
consensus. No, I know.
You always have very good ideas. Even, to be feisty also is to be alive. You show action, and then there is reaction, and then that's a good thing to do. We don't want to stagnate here.
Okay, so we're looking for a motion, if anybody would like to entertain one.
I like it. I think it's a great idea, the way it's put together, even though it needs some massaging, it has the main issues there. It seems you have already a format, the way of responding, it's very organized through the easels, it's the best way to do. Then you guys can decide. It could be one of the group who would like to write on the easel, or one of our staff likes to do that, but those are little details that are minor. But the procedure seems right, and just make sure that the bottom part that is check the box, in the areas that is a question, just 2 or 3 lines, so they would know that they can have their ideas there. It looks more professional if it's there.
So I moved that we accept this format with the corrections and the additions.
And massaging.
And massaging if you,
yeah.
if you need. Refinement, I would say, yes, that's a better word.
Yeah, that's more befitting of Art and Culture Commission, I suppose.
Mr. Duran?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I think technically the motion would be motion to approve feedback given to staff for consideration to finalize the program agenda and format.
Okay, that's the motion I'm making then.
Yes.
There it is.
He loved the way Mr. Duran puts it in a very businesslike.
I should have you as my advisor, Mr. Durant.
Very good. We all want you as our advisors. Concise, to the point, and nicely
It's my life.
balanced. Thank you.
And
Thank you very
I
much.
seconded, I don't think.
I got it.
Okay. Can we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Commissioner Zever?
Yes.
Terhovenessian?
Yes.
Gregorian?
Yes.
Lee?
Yes.
Chairperson Kevanian?
Yes.
5B reports, information only. At 1, status report regarding Riverwalk Public Art Project.
Good one.
Well, John Pearson is the project manager for the Glendale Narrows Riverwalk project, and he's here to give you a status update about the project, which has a public art component in it. Hi, John.
I'm so excited to see him here. It's a wonderful project. You'll all hear about it. I'm so honored to be part of the group. And he's so meticulous and to the point and right on target.
Chairperson Kevanian, Commissioners, staff, good afternoon. I am the project manager for Riverwalk. You're aware that we're under construction now. Phase 1 of Riverwalk is under construction now. Phase 1 is going to provide 2 park areas, a half a mile of recreational trail, an equestrian facility, interpretive displays on the river corridor, a little bit of habitat improvement, and an art project. We anticipate opening the first part of Phase 1 in the spring and the remainder of Phase 1 in the fall of this year. Phase 2 is already partially completed. We're starting on the remainder of Phase 2 now with Measure Our Funds, and Phase 3 will be the bridge that everybody's anticipating across the Los Angeles River that will connect Riverwalk to Griffith Park. We talked last time about forming an art committee to help with the art component, and we've done that. We have a 9-member art committee right now. Chairperson Terhovenessian is one of our most enthusiastic members. We also have a member from the Parks and Recreation Commission, from Community Development, 2 members from the community, the Rancho community and the apartments. Northeast Trees has a member on the committee. Ripson May is on the committee. I'm on the committee, and Emil is a non-voting member of the committee. It's a very enthusiastic bunch of people. We've had a couple of very good meetings. We had a meeting just of the committee to start with for familiarization with the project and to discuss the project criteria. All of the committee members have visited the site with staff members. The second meeting was with the artists. A very spirited discussion, a lot of good ideas, a lot of good thoughts, and I think we'll come out of this with some very interesting work from the artists. If there are any questions about the project, I'd be happy to answer them.
I want to mention something. The location is somewhere it was like a hidden treasure somewhere that you would not even guess. I never thought there is an area in Glendale that people could keep horses in their backyard, in their stables. And you would be in the midst of the hobnob and freeway and etc. and the studios and the bridge, etc., on the freeway. You would have a serene, quiet place that you would, it's so quaint, you think you're in a outside of the town, a river, a brook, and then birds, and the beautiful thing. And it's a great idea. I could never have guessed. And the plans and procedures that they are sort of discussing is going to be very, very exciting and very new. Actually, I wanted to invite our new chairperson, Chairperson Kevanian, to come in, because we were even talking for the future, because under the bridge there's an area that with all the sound of the cars, there's a kind of a muffled area that if one could have a place for a band doing something, or choirs come and sing with the right kind of possibly getting some sponsorship and getting the right kind of backups as acoustics. I said, we have the experts, so it would be nice when we get that is, of course, if we get to Phase 3, but we like to always jump the gun and be ready for all kind of, because it gets us going. You look for whatever is now and whatever might be the future. So, we can turn Glendale into a very exciting place. It is, and we will make it more, I hope. I was very triggered with that. And we have one gentleman here who, when he talks 200 million miles per minute. I need to catch up carefully to make sure I don't miss anything that is said. But it's a very dynamic group, very interesting. And there are people who they have their own habitat. It's their home. They try to protect their rights with their horses and all that stuff. And then we have the parks, which wants to beautify the city, and we have the organizations who are, partnering, trying to put things together. And we have the artists who have the vision that they want to bring what was the ancient group that was sort of residing in that area? Do you remember?
Oh, the Indians.
A special tribe that they are following whatever they used to do. So we are getting from the ancient past to the present to the future. So it's a very exciting project. So
I told you she was one of our most enthusiastic members.
it is exciting. What can I say?
Not
No
only we
surprise.
believe you a lot, but with all these great explanations, I'm just curious when we are going to experience this incredible idea
Phenomenal.
and experience.
As I said, we'll be opening the first part of the project in the spring. Anytime any of you would like to come out, we'd be more than happy to show you the site and explain the project in more detail to you.
I can't wait, really.
Yeah, just let us know. We'll be happy to go out there with you. We're very appreciative of your interest in the project and your assistance with it.
We could even have Commissioner Grigorian donate some kind of a sponsorship or something, because there's an area right by the river that if there would be a little kind of, I was talking about a little kind of a cafe that, they could serve coffee and donuts and people could watch the nature and the brook and etc. It would be so beautiful. Recently visiting so many different countries, I borrow all whatever I like.
I worked this out completely.
Commissioner Gordon, you have nothing to worry about. That's phase 5. You got nothing to worry about.
Okay.
Your enthusiasm far exceeds our budget at this point, but we appreciate the ideas.
Well, that's what gets us going in life.
Yes.
If there is no enthusiasm, I think nothing happens.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Next item, please.
Diamond Awards for Achievement in the Arts update.
The purpose of this report is to update the Commission about the status of the Diamond Awards for Achievement in the Arts. As of today, more than 1,000 Diamond Awards guidelines and nomination forms have been mailed out. We redesigned, as you can see from the handouts, the whole guidelines, and we decided to mail out the hard copies as well as the downloadable forms are available on the city's homepage. We did send out the press releases, and we also talked about having the bulletin board on GTV6 for a month. Since the deadline for the guidelines, the nomination forms is May 25th, we will be sending out several press releases and e-blasts throughout March, April, and May to make sure that we will get enough nominations. As of today, I received one already. But
That's a good start. We're ahead of where we were last time.
Last time we had to postpone it twice, and we had only like 20 or 19 nominations.
So
we hope to get more nominations this year. And I would suggest to have our guidelines, the nomination forms at the round table discussion, information table. Maybe this way we will reach more art groups and art organizations, artists, to send out, to send the word out and promote the event to the
What
community.
category is the nomination that you have received in?
Artist, artist, 19 plus.
Mr. Deaver?
Will you, when it's published on the Glendale artsandculture.org website, will you let us know so that we can distribute that link via email and other social media?
That's a good idea, but as of now, we do have that downloadable forms on the city's homepage, and that link can be also copy and paste and send it out.
Is it?
But we are planning to have our website ready and published by the end of this month. Hopefully, if it's not by the end of this month, in early February. So that will be another venue, way of vehicle for us to publicize the Diamond Awards.
And I just want to know, because I actually went on the city's website, I think, last night looking for it, and just for clarification for anybody else who's looking for it, because I found it really challenging for the press release.
You go under the press releases.
I went under the press releases. It took me a while to figure out where the press release link is, which is in the center of the homepage, and you can find it in that roster. But I didn't find, and maybe it's been since I've looked, I didn't see a link for the actual application in any prominent way anyhow.
It's there. I talked to the IS department and they sent me the link. However, you may want to try to go to the Community Services and Parks page and try that page.
I'll be so glad on our website.
I know it's I know, but once we have our Glendale Arts and Culture website working, it is on the homepage.
I think that's great, and I think I'm wondering too. I had noticed while I was on the city's webpage that at least one of the departments has a Twitter account, and so if when we have a definable link, if that can be sent out via other associated departments that might have contact with people in the arts and cultural world. In addition to, I know we have some local bloggers in Glendale. I think it would be great to be able to have promote that through them as well to get that into the community.
Well, another thing that I was very pleased, I got very good response from other department heads who received this as a received the email and the hard copies. They had very good suggestions to include the Diamond Award link in their newsletters. So we've been working on that direction as well to make sure that it's a lot of people in the community. Most of the community members will be aware of this event and do the nominations by the deadline.
A question. Maybe you have already discussed, but I lost it. Did we contact different organizations besides the flyer? Was there a personal call? Because we talked last time that it would be great if we could contact, I don't know if it's viable or whatever, but it's just to contact different organizations, because we have become such a paper-oriented community, and then people usually, they get their mail, they stack it somewhere, so later on they would look through, and it is kind of gets out of their agenda. But when there's a call, there is a human touch and contact that immediately puts the person kind of as a perspective. Is it possible? Would we do it? Because let's say if you would get in touch with different organizations to see if how they want to participate in it, or if they have people, and then remind them that we have the flyer, please go back to it, and etc.
Well, Commissioner Terhuanesian, I wish we had the resources to have that phone call, to individual organizations and talk to them and explain them how important it is for them to make those nominations. However, we do encourage that with your own connections, perhaps you can, contact these organizations, or I'm thinking the best way of doing it, since we have enough time, to use the roundtable discussion event, since we are directly going to see these organizations, we are going to talk to them, so we should have all these forms available there, and we will not depend on the hard copy mailing. It will be mainly electronic, since a lot of, new generation especially is much comfortable with the electronic and downloadable forms.
And with the roundtable, we could even ask for their help to, if we want, they can arrange a telephone tree or something, that we would make sure that we have not missed any organizations within the city of Glendale, people that they know, people who are on your list. So it could be, I can help you with that if you want that after the round table, to organize to see who would do how many calls and which organizations. So we would kind of cover up all the ones that we are aware of or the suggestions we get at the round table. Because that human touch always, I do believe, eventually gets us more resources. Because as I say, I know that young people like the email and the electronics and then this comes, but somehow even our emails, don't go through all of them. We see them, we click on the ones that are immediate and urgent to our life because usually there's so much to take care of. But when the phone call comes, there's no choice. We are there. So it would be good. Roundtable is a good suggestion to start from there. Thank you.
Commissioner Lee?
I would like to challenge each commissioner to contact at least 5 organizations. Because this way at least we'll have, 25.
Only 5?
At least 5.
We did so many. Yeah, last time we divided the organizations among us too.
We did like a phone bank.
And we would like to get the community. It's not only us. We will do that because it's our duty, because we have taken it upon us. But I would like to make sure that community feels that they are part of it. When you're involved and you're included, you do much more than somebody else is doing it. So, being within my profession, evaluating human behavior, so I do believe that works in a long run in a better way. So we'll try to do that, and definitely we all have to take part of it.
And one more thing, please. Remember that it's time for you to think about the potential new judges to include to our general list. The list will be sent to you.
New what?
New judges.
Okay.
To the judges panel, which we will be using to select potential 2 judges groups to select the winners for this year's Diamond Awards. So before next meeting, February meeting, probably we will send you the list, the general list, by email. You can go ahead and add new names or delete, remove. I'm sure there will be names that you recognize they're no longer around here in Glendale. But the goal is in our February commission meeting to finalize the list, so we will move forward with the Diamond Awards project.
Question, last time I asked too, but I can't remember. Not last time, last round. Did we ever include Mr. Jeff Blight? He is an artist. He produces videos for most of the organizations in the city. He knows the history of City of Glendale very well. And what he did with the Glendale Unified, he did it for Glendale High School and he did for the intercultural department. He prepared a video which was very artistic and very culturally embedded. It was very interesting the way he combined things. I had his name last time, but I don't know if we really invited him or not.
I don't remember, but the list that we have, it's a big list.
Okay.
General master list.
Okay.
I know my name is still in that list. So
that's a good one.
we have to remove the old names and update as much as possible. But if you have any new suggestions, that will be the best.
That sounds good. People who are in the jury, they should also know, because this is a Glendale Art and Culture Commission, City of Glendale's award. So it's good that they do understand the culture of the city. They know the history of the city, and they know where we are and where we are going to. It's very important when we are, as a judge, deciding on any kind of evaluating our artists in the community.
Next item, please.
Item 6, Commission and Staff Comments.
Just one I would say is, I don't know if it's pertinent to this. I was watching the Golden Globe last week, and there was a movie made by an Iranian artist. It was called Separation. It was very interesting. It won the foreign film. If there is a chance for anyone in the movies to go and see it, because you need to read it with the subtitles. What was impressive about that movie was that, because we are Art and Culture Commission, besides the artistic value of the thing, it was so culturally embedded. It gives such a profile, not of the fanatics, not of the politics, but the human heart, how people are in that country, regardless of those little kind of coloring that we have on top. It is a beautiful, beautiful movie that touches many aspects of human life, of separation, of people, immigrants who are willing to come to this country and are willing to go even through divorce to be able to get to the land of opportunity. People who are willing to leave their child behind, if need be, to rescue and to survive. And the feeling of believing and having faith and taking care of the elderly and the respect and etc. for one's honoring one's word and one's family. It's a wonderful, wonderful movie. If you get a chance, please do watch. It was respected by, even discussed by most of the news press ahead of time, and I was very excited to see that it won the Foreign Film Award.
Commissioner Gregorian.
Well, before I get to my comments, let me just add to my colleague Darawanesian's comment. I have seen the movie Separation. It is an excellent movie. I highly recommend for people to see it. It has a lot of human touches and family issues, and in the aspect of the religious and political constraints and all that. And if you are thinking about a good movie being a special effects and murders and guns and firework, then no, this is not for you at all. Please don't go. But if you are looking for a really good movie where your heart will be touched by the dilemma that this family is going through with a sick father and a divorce and the whole legal and political issues in Iran, then it was a very worthy winner, and I'm very impressed. I've seen the movie. It's just absolutely great. And the language barrier is not much. You can definitely read the subtitles. Sometimes the subtitles go very quickly, so you may need to see it twice, but still worth it. So having said that, let me just make a couple of very quick announcements. As a liaison to the Glendale Arts, I need to make a couple of announcements. The first one is, as we know, Mr. Barry McComb, is retiring at the end of this month. So Glendale Arts is organizing a farewell celebration to appreciate more than 10 years of his services to this community. And there would be a reception on Monday, January 30th at the Alex Theater at the hall at between 5:30 and 7:30 p.m. And if anybody is interested, I'm not quite sure if how this works, but if anybody is interested, I would highly recommend that our people call Miss Elisa Glickman at the Alex Theater to make reservations, because I believe it is by RSVP and reservations. And what I hear from our last meeting, Mr. McComb is going to be the director of the cultural affairs of the City of Thousand Oaks, which has a population of about $120,000, an art budget of about $4.5 million, and I'm sorry, and I think full-time staff of 7 or 13, and a part-time staff of as many as you can get. So it is really, I really highly am kind of envious of the City of Thousand Oaks, and I'm very happy with the move for Mr. Macomb. He was a very good friend, a very good person in this city. He contributed a lot to Glendale Arts and arts in Glendale generally, and this is a great move up for him, and of course he has all our best wishes and good feelings about him to go there and be successful. That's the first thing. The second thing is on February 10th of this coming year, next month, the Glendale Pops Orchestra is having their second concert at the Alex Theater, and I forgot to bring the flyer and the details of it. But this is the second concert of the Glendale Pops Orchestra. The first one apparently was very successful. I was away at the time, didn't attend, but I heard it was very successful. It exceeded the expectations of the organizers, and I am urging my colleagues at the dais and the community to support the Glendale Pops Orchestra and go to the concert of the February 20th and enjoy. But again, unfortunately, I forgot to bring the flyer, so I cannot give you the details of it, but it's on the web, on the Alex Theater, everywhere where you can enjoy it. A couple of other announcements. The Glendale Youth Alliance, as it was presented today, has an exhibition on March 21st of artwork. So I'm inviting two groups of people. First, I'm inviting the artists to contact Glendale Youth Alliance and donate their work and talk to them and see how it works. And second, I'm inviting the public to go and support this very worthy cause, which is going to help the Glendale Youth Alliance. And the date again is March 21st, 2012. And I understand from the lady that was made the presentation that the deadline for donation of artwork is end of February. So we still have some time, but please make sure, or was it the beginning of February? No, I think it was end of February, right?
29th.
Yes. So I'm inviting not only the artists to donate their work, but also the public to go and support this. This is a very worthy cause. And last but not least, actually a great pride for our community. The Los Angeles Art Show is starting. Actually, yesterday was the opening day for by invitation, private. From today to this Sunday, January 22nd, there are international artists from all over the place. Apparently, there are more than 100 galleries and organizations that are representing some artists in there. And I'm very excited to announce that one gallery from Southern California, the Muradian Gallery, was invited and is participating, and they are participating with 7 artists in there, and at least 3 of the artists are local Glendale artists. It's Sam Saga, Sam Zumian, and Sev Black. I'm sure they are from Glendale, and the other 2, I know 2 of them are not. And Vaheb Berberian and Kiki I'm not quite sure if they are Glendale artists or not.
And Emil Kazaz.
I'm sorry? Oh, and Emil Kazaz. Yes, and Emil Kazaz is an internationally known artist, a very interesting guy. I'm not quite sure, his artwork obviously is a matter of taste, but he is internationally known. He sells his stuff everywhere, and I think we not only should be very proud of these artists living within us in our community, but also the fact that they are going to this international show. They were invited, and we should support them, visit them, and hopefully enjoy this incredible art show. I'm going to be there on Saturday, so my colleagues, whoever wants to join me, that would be great.
Again?
It has started from today, and it's going until Sunday, January 22nd. Usually starts from 11 a.m. till 7 p.m. On Sunday, it will be to 5 p.m. And it is at the Los Angeles Convention Center, I believe. So I think, we should really be proud of this several artists from Glendale represented there, and hopefully in the future we will somehow not only nominate them for our Diamond Awards, but also maybe kind of give them some kind of an appreciation from the city or something for being there.
Can't we do it for the present events that we have? We cannot include that?
Well, that's something that we have to discuss in the future. But what I'm saying is we should really recognize those artists and thank them, and hopefully be able to support them as much as we can. That concludes my comments. Thank you.
As you know, I'm the liaison to the Museum of Neon Art, and I just wanted to note that they have some temporary space in Pomona, actually, in the interim while they're waiting for the space here to be completed. It's my understanding. I know that there's concern with funding just across the state with the redevelopment agencies and CRA funding, but my understanding is that things are still moving forward, and so we continue to support them in that arena. And they are continuing to try and do some outreach and stay visible here in the city of Glendale for this next year, so I hope we can support them in that as well. The library has made some display case at the main library available for their work. They'll be doing some co-sponsored events. There'll be a Glendale Neon Cruise Tour in April 28th, and you can go to the neonmona.org website to learn more about that tour. That's something that they do in the downtown and other areas of Los Angeles. And they'll be holding hopefully some lectures and events and things at the library as well. So we hope to continue to see their presence here in Glendale, even though physically it's still a bit delayed on seeing the actual museum up. And we wish them well and support them in that with that. Also, just wanted to mention that there's been times when I've run into to artists in the community who have really great ideas about things that they like to see, from mural events and festivals to art installations. And I know that among the community there's just a tremendous amount of creative ideas, and to encourage people to continue with those and to collaborate and to talk with other community members and find and really refine those visions and those ideas and figure out simple business plans about how they might be done, and then bring them to the commission and talk with the city to find out if there's ways that we can support you in those efforts, because we can only do so much as a city and as a commission here, and most of that is to hopefully pave the way for the creative and fabulous energies out there, and so I want to encourage the continuation of that type of thought and collaboration.
I have a message. This is not due to my being liaison to the Riverwalk, which we talked already, and then with Brand Associates. This is, I'm a committee member with the Commemorative Week of Remembrance, and in our meeting there was a discussion about if Art and Culture Commission would like to be involved, kind of, with the Man's Inhumanity to Man, but it should be under the leadership and direction of the main committee. And I told them that, after we kind of come to a little bit more formatted form, then I'll bring it here and then we'll see how we want to work on it, because right now there are two major directions, which is not very clear which one we're going to follow, because we had our first meeting last week. So one idea was to have Mansourian's Requiem, which demands a lot of money, and there are two different orchestras that they might be one or the other included based on how much money could be raised, but it needs a lot of money. So if we go that route, then definitely we would need to have a committee that Art and Culture Commission could be part of it, and we could do the fundraising to raise the money for that. The other direction was also very exciting, and that was to do an electronic kind of an interactive way of recruiting artists who are working on the theme of man's inhumanity to man, little kind of maybe skits, or it could be videos, it could be musical pieces, and etc. And to have a certain day during the Week of Remembrance to award one of the groups. So there should be a jury also involved, so they would decide which work was more impressive, and etc. So the moment one or the other, because there are two complete directions, so the moment one or the other is finalized, I'll bring it back to the Commission to see if the Commission as a Commission would like to kind of take the responsibility to work under the main committee for that project.
If I may recommend for the...
Mr. Grant, do you want to interject?
I may not recommend a movie to the chair? Okay. That's fine.
Okay, just a reminder. Next week on Tuesday, January 24th, during the City Council meeting, the Commission is going to recommend the donation item by Anita Garoni not to be accepted. So it is recommended that the chair of the Commission or chair designee attend the meeting. Not that the staff will present a report. However, if they have any questions, we need to attend the meeting. It's next Tuesday at 6 p.m.
And who designates the chair designee?
Chairperson.
The chair.
Was that a trick question?
So if he cannot, go, does he recommend somebody? He asks somebody to go.
He can.
Yes. and I will.
Or in the.
If that needs to be taken care of, I will do that.
Okay.
And one other thing, last thing that I would like to mention during the staff announcements is the e-newsletter, which was mailed out end of December, right after the Christmas holidays, and it did create a lot of excitement, and I got a lot of positive response. It was very professionally done, and I like to thank Commissioner Deaver for doing such a good job. Thank you. That has
A lot
been
of good
linked to
comments.
many other newsletters, and we're thinking about linking it through the City View newspaper as well.
Any other comments? Commissioner Lee.
I want to wish everyone a happy Chinese New Year. But to be corrected, it's Lunar New Year because it's celebrated all over Asia. This year, it falls on January 23rd, which is this coming Monday. It is Year of the Dragon, so my son's year.
Are we going to make money, or the government, or what happens with the Year of Dragon? Any specific?
Well, Year of the Dragon in general means it's very good for business. It's supposed to be a very good year. In the Asian culture, dragons are revered as strong and fierce, that they scare away all the evil spirits to bring good luck and fortune.
Talking about Chinese, there's a tour, I think, Ararat Glendale, Humanitment Ararat Glendale chapter, if I'm saying it right. They have a wonderful tour in the month of May for 11 days to China. So we're going to celebrate the New Year there for you.
Mr. Duran.
Mr. Chair, I don't mean to come across as disrespectful, but I've been cautioned by our city attorney that we really do need to make a greater effort to be more brief with our comments, otherwise it begins to delve into an area of the Brown Act and stuff.
Right. Thank you very much.
Could I ask you a question? It should be concise, or it should not be a question and answer and other people participating as part of it?
I believe comment by definition is supposed to be a quick comment or a brief announcement.
No discussion can be.
And you can direct a question to staff, for a brief answer, or ask, something to be agendized. But the Brown Act does specify that during this time, during staff and also commissioner comments, we want to keep it brief. Thank you.
Any other comments? Well, I guess there's not much to say for me, but I would like to mention that one of my good friends, who's an excellent flute player, Tigran Arakelian, is having a concert. He actually is doing a lot of conducting nowadays, so he doesn't perform as often, but I'm very glad to hear that he's doing a concert of solely 20th century music. It's going to be this Saturday on the 21st at Lark Music Conservatory at 543 Arden Avenue in Glendale. It's going to be free admission. It's not a problem for anyone. No excuse. It starts at 6 o'clock, and it'll probably take about an hour long, but it's going to be specifically 20th century works. And actually, now to think about it, I might have one of the scores that he's going to play off of, but I don't know how he's going to do it. He lent it to me like 3 years ago. But that's pretty much all I got.
Is it concise enough? You're getting used to it,
Commissioner Lee?
I want to congratulate our new chair.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for stepping up, because this should be a very strong and powerful year for us. So let's look forward to moving forward.
And I have to say that to my colleagues, thank you for trusting me with the position. And it's the year of the dragon. make it good for business. With that said, anything else?
Which year is for the arts?
That's never.
That's in Thousand Oaks,
Here.
not in the Glendale. In Thousand Oaks, they have the money, they have the year of the arts.
Anything else?
Next item, yes, item 7, written communications, and we have none, and adjournment.
All right, we are adjourned.
Thank you.